He ruled with terror, but behind closed doors, he was mesmerized by Mickey Mouse. March 5, 1953. Inside Stalin's heavily guarded dacha at Kuncevo, the leader of the Soviet Union lies on the floor, barely breathing. For hours, his guards hesitate to enter, terrified of disturbing the man who had absolute power over their lives. Joseph Stalin, the architect of purges, famines, and gulags, is dying. But away from the public eye, away from the speeches, executions, and red banners, Stalin had a strange and almost unbelievable habit. This iron-fisted dictator was captivated by cartoons. And not just any cartoons, the colorful, cheerful, and deeply American creations of Walt Disney. It seems impossible. Stalin, the sworn enemy of capitalism, laughing at Donald Duck? Stalin, who banned American jazz, smiling as Snow White sang to her forest friends? Yet deep in Soviet archives, there are documents, import orders, and personal testimonies proving that Stalin not only watched Disney films, he collected them, screened them privately, and even tried to copy them for Soviet propaganda. But why? And how did a man who ordered millions to their deaths find comfort in the innocent worlds of animated fantasy? To understand, we need to go back to the early 1930s. The Soviet Union was entering one of its darkest periods. Mass collectivization, show trials, and political purges. Art and culture were strictly controlled. Only socialist realism, stories of brave workers, heroic soldiers, and perfect communist leaders could be shown to the public. Anything foreign, especially from the United States, was considered dangerous. And yet, Stalin made an exception. In 1937, when Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs premiered in America, the Soviet leader was intrigued. Officially, the film was banned. Unofficially, Stalin ordered a copy to be imported for his personal viewing. Those present later claimed he watched in total silence, his cold eyes fixed on the screen, occasionally whispering questions about the animation techniques. After Snow White came Bambi. Stalin was so impressed by the emotional storytelling that he summoned the head of Soyuzmultfilm, the Soviet animation studio, and ordered him to make something like this, but Soviet. Instead of forest animals, there would be young communist pioneers. Instead of magic, there would be socialist heroism. The goal was simple: capture Disney's charm, but twist it into propaganda. For Stalin, Disney wasn't just entertainment. It was a tool. He saw how these films could move an audience, how they could make children cry, laugh, and dream. And he wanted that same emotional power for the Soviet Union. He instructed animators to study Disney's pacing, music, and colors. He even gave them more funding, rare in a country where artists usually worked in poverty. Still, this passion for American animation was never to be made public. Owning a Western film in the USSR could get you arrested. Listening to American music could land you in a labor camp. But Stalin? He screened these films in his Kremlin residence and in his private cinema at the dacha. Only his closest circle knew, and none dared to speak of it. There's even a bizarre anecdote. During World War II, Stalin reportedly considered inviting Walt Disney to visit Moscow as a gesture of cultural diplomacy. It never happened. The Cold War would soon freeze any such exchange. But the idea alone reveals how seriously he took this strange fascination. By the late 1940s, Stalin's health was declining. His paranoia grew, his purges continued, and his inner circle shrank. But one ritual remained: private film screenings. He watched Soviet war epics, propaganda reels, and still, occasionally, his Disney favorites. For a man who trusted no one, who lived surrounded by guards and informants, perhaps these films offered a brief escape. In Disney's world, villains were obvious, heroes were pure, and happy endings were guaranteed. A stark contrast to the fear and betrayal that ruled Stalin's real life. On the night before his death in 1953, Stalin reportedly spent the evening with his political cronies, watching films until late. No one knows for certain if one of them was Disney, but the fact that the possibility exists says everything about this strange double life. After Stalin's death, pieces of this secret came to light. Soviet animators who had been ordered to mimic Disney spoke out. Import logs for foreign films were uncovered, and historians began piecing together the story of the dictator and his cartoons. Was it nostalgia? Admiration for artistic genius? Or did Stalin see in Disney a tool to shape young minds just as he had shaped a nation? We may never know, but one thing is certain. Even the most ruthless rulers can have bizarre, almost childlike obsessions. In Stalin's case, that obsession wore white gloves, had large round ears, and whistled while he worked. If you found this surprising glimpse into Stalin's private life fascinating, please share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more amazing stories about the lives behind the legends. Your support helps us bring these unique human stories to you every week.